how can we assure that we increase trade and investment with Latin American countries like Colombia and Mexico, which are viable partners in trade, investment, and national security, particularly as we're trying to wean ourselves from the dependence that we have on China. And I'll begin with you, Senator Gallego, about your trip to Colombia.
We went in there, eyes wide open, potentially dealing with a very hostile president in Colombia. And I think we actually came out with some really good understanding and some good wins for the United States. And I think it really could only have been done by two Colombiano-Americanos going down there and talking. The biggest mistake that this country did was we never pivoted north to south when it came to our economic orientation. We should have had one of the most integrated economies from Alaska to Tierra del Fuego. And if we had done that, we probably would be even richer than we are now, and I think we'd have more security than we have right now. Our east to west orientation is only making us, in my opinion, poor, right? We have been seeing our jobs being shipped to China and to Asia, and what it only has done is actually increased a lot of instability in Latin America that has pushed those populations up here looking for stability. But we don't have to do that. We don't have to have the next century be that way. If you look at what happened in the post-World War II economy of Europe, a direct investment and a focus with the Marshall Plan turned within, you think about it, from 1945 to where we are now, the European Union becoming one of the most strongest economic sectors in the world, second only to China after us, right? If we can do something of that similar nature with Latin America, or just in general the Western Hemisphere, you would see so many problems go away. You would see more security for all of us. You certainly would see less of this kind of mass migration of refugees happening, and we would all be richer. And I think that how does that work? We have to work with the private sector to start looking at the Calis, the Barranquillas of the world instead of the Chengdus and the Tijuns, right? We have to talk to them about what you can do in Panama instead of Singapore, or the fact that you have some of the most educated populations just south of the border in Mexico, and they're within reach within less than a 2-hour flight, or sometimes even a drive. The situation you have is that you have so many New York-based companies that honestly, they're just lazy. And like, well, I have one factory that's already there, so I'm just going to put the next factory there in Asia, instead of trying to restart the relationship and start to try something new in these countries. So some of it has to be those countries themselves making themselves attractive. Some of it has to be us actually pushing them. If you're not going to be in the United States, we want you to be near shore because we don't trust that relationship, right? What we saw during COVID was one of the scariest things. Bernie wasn't in yet, but I was actually the chairman of a group called the Intel Special Operations on the Armed Services Committee. Some of the intelligence that I was getting, this classified intelligence I was getting, was frightening about how close we were to some very severe points in emergency situations because of our reliance on trade from Asia. The reason you see this urgency that came from the CHIPS Act, that was all because of what we learned from COVID and how close we were to really funding ourselves into a Great Depression because of a reliance on chips coming from Asia. The fact that we are not continuing to learn from that and trying to nearshore everything possible, I think is a huge mistake on our part. And again, makes the countries all richer, makes us all more secure, and certainly would make us, have a willing partners that we don't actually have to worry about them siding with the Venezuelas of the world, the Chinas of the world, the Irans of the world, the Russias of the world.
So there's a tradition in the Senate that says that every point has been made, but it hasn't been made by everybody. And that's what leads to long discussions. So I would just say he said it very well, and I agree.